everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Scandaloh, which is, it's such a terrible name, but it's a sequel to a game that I really love called Awkward Guess. Awkward Guess, from the same company, was a deduction game, and I still consider it to be one of the best deduction games ever made, where somebody was killed and you were trying to figure out how they were killed, and it was done with this unique building your own deck, the deck of cards out of like 400 cards, finding a solution from there by trading cards back and forth with each other. I love that game. I think it's fantastic. This is the sequel with a much less interesting theme to me. You know, when I was a kid and I stood in line at the grocery store with my mom and was bored and read the different titles of all the gossip columns there, I was like, who reads all this stuff? Well, obviously people do. It's still out there. Who did this? Who broke this? Who did the scandal? Scandals are there, whether they're political scandals, whether they're celebrities. Scandals are there. And in this game, you get the joy of being a sleazy reporter breaking a scandal on one of these people. That theme doesn't interest me at all. I'd rather be solving a murder, and solving a murder, I feel like I'm a good guy. You know, here, breaking a scandal on someone, But either way, I'm still interested in the game. I had a chance to look at this before it went to Kickstarter, but I had a hard time figuring the game out, and so I never really got into it until now after it's been published. So let's take a look at how the game plays, and we'll be right back. In Scandaloh, you are trying to figure out what celebrity is involved in this scandal. And there are 5 celebrities. They all have vowels. We have Amy Albright, Ed Enfield, Uma Unwin, Ike Intelman, and Owen Orlonsky. Okay, A-E-I-O-U. Then they also have all these different contacts. These are people who work with them, might implicate them in the scandal. There are 16 different scandals that are here, shown by different pictures. I'm not quite sure what all these scandals mean. I can guess on some of them, like they're involved in steroids, and here I guess they're stealing intelligence. I don't know what the scandals all mean. And then there are 4 newspapers, and one of these newspapers is willing to publish your story. So you need to know 1, 2, 3 things to win the game. Now you're going to be doing that through a system that they made using cards. So there are hundreds of cards here, and when you play a specific game of this, it's going to tell you which cards to pick. It might say, use cards 5, use cards 6. There are various different scenarios that you can play, and there's even an app that can give you specific ones. But you'll look here, and for example, this is a very hard one. It will say, use all these card numbers, and so you will then go through and you'll make a deck of these cards. I will say I do like the fact that the cards have different colors on them. It doesn't really mean anything, but it does make it a whole lot easier to sort them out at the end of the game. This is one of the disadvantages to Scandaloh. It's the same as Awkward Guests, in that it does take a bit to put this together. We found that one person puts the cards together, the other person reads them out. There's a bit of setup time here, maybe 5 minutes, but once you do that, you're ready to play the game. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get a hand up from the deck of 7 different cards. These cards are going to give you information. And this information will say, for example, Jill Jarrett, who's one of the contacts. This says, does not work with A or I. So on Jill Jarrett's, I'll just cross off the A and the I. If I figure out that she's not working with anybody, or if I figure out that she's involved and she's down to just you, then I know that you, Uma Unwin, is the one that's involved. It's a little tricky to figure out how each of these cards work. Fortunately, each player has a shield that shows how, if you have this card, that means to cross this off. And there's a lot of information here that you're figuring out. One of the biggest things is there is a network here, and sometimes you'll cross off connections, and eventually if there are no connections between one of the candidates and any of these contacts, you know that they're free and clear. Same thing up here, you're trying to find evidence to prove that specific things happened, and there's just a lot of things going on. Different newspapers are investigating certain people that are up here and investigating certain crimes. If you cross all them off, that newspaper no longer is there. Same if you cross off the same person in all 4 newspapers, you know that that person is not the celebrity people are looking for. So you're going to have these cards in your hand. You're going to use that information, but then the game is going to begin. And that's what this board is for. So players can, on your turn, you can request 3 different references. I might say, I'd like to know more about Kate Keene. I might want to know more about the Global Sentinel, and I might want to know more about the Industrial Zone. Now these matter because the different cards that you have refer to these things. So the Industrial Zone is on this card. So this card may be included in what I'm talking about here. And so each person's going to make me an offer of cards that meet one or more of these characteristics. These are face down cards, and they're going to put a number in front of them equal to the total of these numbers on the card. Basically, the number on the card shows how strong of a piece of evidence it is. The higher the number, the better the piece of evidence. And then I'm going to pick one of those players to make an exchange with. If no one makes an exchange, I get to draw 3 cards, which is pretty powerful. So no one's going to want that to happen. But someone's going to offer me a card, and I want to make an exchange with them. I have to give them cards from my hand, they could be any kind of cards, that are equal to or greater than the number of their offer, and then I take their offer. I can do it to multiple players if I have enough cards in my hands. So I take their cards, they take mine, and we sit there and we mark stuff off. That's pretty much the game. You're just going to keep doing this because you're going to keep marking stuff off on your sheet until someone thinks they have the solution. And each round of the game, you're supposed to use one of these tokens to say, I know the solution, or I don't know the solution. And they're all different smiley faces. And we stopped doing that because for the first 20 turns of the game, nobody knows the solution. So we just wait till someone says, I know the solution, because putting this out every single turn adds some meh to the game. The game also has this camera cardboard piece here, which is where you put discard cards, because at the end of every turn you discard cards, which is kind of a cool little thing here. But the rule book itself explains the game pretty well, and it has this very big walkthrough example. And honestly, I think this walkthrough example is really important because for the life of me, I did not understand how any of the cards worked. After playing Awkward Guests, this one felt so different on how it played and how the logic worked. It does come with a lot of different cases here in the back. I mean, that's a lot of cases. Each one also has its answer, although they have them in different orders, which I thought was pretty cool. They have a nice thing here in the back that shows how a turn goes. And here's what all the stories mean. So sorry, it's intense doping, disowned child, marital infidelity. Don't know what that has to do with that. But anyway, you kind of forget about these after a while because you never actually say the name of these stories out loud. You just say the cardboard cutouts, the sliding board, whatever it might be. There's a lot of sheets in the game. They are all double-sided. They're not particularly intuitive. But again, there's a lot of stuff. If you got the Kickstarter, there's more cases in here, including quotes from people who did not play the game, which is also me. My quote, I tried to play the game but couldn't get through the rules. They were just so confusing. I just didn't understand how everything worked in deduction. All right, well, we'll get back to that. But there is some other stuff, and again, like I said, there's an app where you can find even more information on how to make different cases. But anyway, the first person to solve the scandal, not solve the scandal, but to break the scandal, I guess, is the winner of the game. So, again, I want to go back to the fact that I really love Awkward Guests because I don't like Scandaloh. My rating for Scandaloh is actually pretty low. It's a 5 out of 10. And the reason that it is not particularly high, there's several of them. First of all, I don't like the theme at all. The idea of breaking scandals on people is just not interesting. Now, I will say, though, that that's a minor thing. If it was a really fun game, I think I could get over that. And here's the thing, it's literally almost the same game as Awkward Guests. Like up to the trading cards with people for numbers and giving information, cards back and forth. So if it's the same game, why do I like it so much less? I mean, Awkward Guests for me is a 9. And I can tell you why it's so different, because it is so obtuse. It took me so long to fight my way to figure out how these cards worked. This connection with this newspaper and this piece of evidence. With Awkward Guess, it was this weapon used to kill this person in this room. That is so easy to explain. And Awkward Guess had this cool thing about movement on the board, and that was the unique, interesting thing. If the person didn't move through this room, they therefore couldn't use the weapons in this room. And so that took it a step above and beyond other games. But this one tries to copy that by saying you have these celebrities, and they have a network of people, and so we're crossing them out. So the very first time I tried out Scandaloh, I simply made a deck of cards and turned the cards over one at a time. I played a very easy game of it. Turned the cards over one at a time and just crossed off the information, figured it out. I was maybe 7/8 through the deck before I figured it out. Now, that's with me just playing it on the easiest level possible. When you start trading cards with people, it's a mess trying to explain it to other people, and they're like, wait, this newspaper is not investigating this person, so they won't take my story from them. And I have 2 pieces of evidence here, but that doesn't mean this. It's just, it feels so messy, it's so obtuse, and so, and again, I that's what I thought originally when they quoted me in their little thing. I don't know why. And it just, the whole thing is just not interesting. We had this at Dice Tower East, and nobody wanted to play it, but I suspect there's a couple reasons. I don't think the name does it any favors. The artwork is kind of ugly, although so was Awkward Guess, and people love that. You like it, I think, despite that artwork, or it gives it a charm. It's its own artwork. But this theme doesn't sell you, and then you open that rule book, and you're trying to figure out the connections, and it's not intuitive. And deduction games need to be at least a little intuitive. Let the connections into stuff, that should blow your brain as you're going through it. One of the most popular deduction games, Sleuth, is just figuring out who has what diamond cards in their hands. It's really simple, but it's the permutations and combinations where you go, ooh. This one also has those permutation combinations, but the idea of, okay, so since this person is not working with this person, and this person's over here, I can cut these 2 things off, and since they didn't do this, and you're trying to crisscross so many strings, but figuring out how those strings, you look like a madman with one of those string boards all over the place, like the meme on the internet, like, look at this thing. And it just doesn't work. A game, I'm sure that people who actually do get it, and people who have played this a lot, playtesters and stuff, when they get into it, they're going to feel like this is better than Awkward Guess because there's so much more depth there. And that may be true. But I need to be able to teach it to people and play it with them to get to that depth. And I think that's where this game kind of falls apart. I'm still looking forward to the next game from this series. I hope it's something a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more that people get into, and a theme that's more exciting. I think this one is definitely a major dip down from Awkward Guests, which is a spectacular game, and I still like it. And I like the system here, making a deck of cards and having that. It's just that, again, this theme has no interest for me, but I can get past that, but I could not get past the depth and just deep dive into the, like, I felt like I was treading water and just figuring out how everything fit together, and I just, that didn't make me very happy. So I really wanted to like Scandaloh, but unfortunately, it's not one I enjoy. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time on the Dice Tower.